Hello and welcome to another accessories video. This time I'm going to be looking at combining accessories for full auto fire while stationary. Now if you don't know how these videos are being done, I have a wall here that's 25 meters away and there's a convenient little bush that marks out 25 meters away from that wall so that I know I've got the range right every time. And first test do is an M416 with no attachments at all, and I'm just going to full auto fire it at the wall with no recoil compensation. So I'm not pulling back, I'm just letting the gun work up the wall, and I fire over the top of the wall so I make sure that every shot that should hit the wall does. So there we have it. We have three patterns using the vertical lines as the start point, and we end up with a pattern like that, which I then put into a paint program and put on all the bullets, and then that can be converted into this diagram here, which shows you the three bullet patterns from the full auto. So as you can see with the HK416, it's pretty much up with a bit to the right, and if we overlay all those patterns we get this. And this is the baseline we're going to be working against. So we'll compare all the accessories to that pattern. Now from reading the stats, the ergo grip should have no effect on this test. So I've taken the ergo grip and the muzzle brake, and I'm going to use that to compare to the plain muzzle brake that we got from the test in the individual accessories testing. So what we should see is that the ergo grip makes no difference to this test because it improves accuracy when hip firing on the move, but it also improves accuracy when aiming on the move, which it doesn't say in the notes on it. So here we can see the spreads for the muzzle brake, and it's quite a wide pattern because although it's reducing the vertical recoil, it's increasing the spread. And if we compare it to the base gun, you can see that it's not as good. So the pattern that we've got is very similar to the pattern for just the muzzle brake, and so I'm disregarding the ergo grip from this test. Also disregarding the laser sight because that's going to have no effect. So what we're looking at are the underbarrel accessories and the grips, and we can discount the ergo grip because that's it's only when you're moving. So I'm going to put the stubby grip on. Back at the bush to do the test so that the range is right, and again we'll do the 3-shot pattern up the wall. So including these shot patterns does stretch the video out and it is a bit boring, but if we're going to do testing then you also have to have evidence for testing. So this is basically to show that the results are coming from the setups and that I'm getting them right. So there's the patterns for the stubby grip and muzzle brake, and what the stubby grip is doing is reducing the accuracy penalty that we're getting from the muzzle brake. So we've got less vertical recoil and we have a 15% accuracy penalty instead of a 30% accuracy penalty. But as you can see, it's still quite a wide spread. So now we'll do the stubby grip and the compensator, exactly the same test in exactly the same way. So as you can see, there's our pattern for the stubby grip and compensator, and the compensator is reducing the amount of side to side recoil, and the stubby grip is removing the accuracy penalty from that. So we do have a slightly tighter grouping than we do with the bear gun, and this one seems quite usable. So now we've got the heavy barrel and the stubby grip. Now this did turn out to be one of the best combinations for burst firing, so it'll be interesting to see how it gets on in full auto. So the patterns are pretty much as we should expect from the heavy barrel. We've got a lot more vertical recoil. We've got a nice narrow pattern, but we have far fewer shots hitting the wall because of the increased recoil. And if we compare that to the base pattern, we can see that it's a much tighter pattern, and that if you can handle the increased recoil, then it should be better than the bear gun. So now we have the heavy barrel and the angle grip, and this was the best option for purely burst firing, so we'll compare this one as well. So here's our pattern for the heavy barrel and angled grip, and we've got a nice narrow pattern, but we have more spread from the inaccuracy because the angle grip basically just reduces the recoil on the first shot. It doesn't do anything to accuracy. So this isn't as good a pattern as we had with the heavy and stubby. So now we'll move on to the angled and muzzle brake. And as you can see from that first pattern, that is pretty awful. But we'll do all three and then compare it. So we pretty much have got the patterns almost merging. So the pattern is going pretty much all over the place. We have got more shots on the wall because we reduced vertical recoil, but the accuracy penalty is the full 30%, and so we're getting a lot of spread and random shots. And if you compare it to the base gun, it's not as good a pattern because it's a bit all over the place at the edges. So now we have the compensator and the angled grip, and we'll do the 3 full auto shots at the wall and then compare those. So that seems to be a better shot pattern than the muzzle brake, and we have an almost vertical pattern with very little side to side recoil, so we're not drifting off to the right, but we have got quite a spread from the accuracy penalty. And if we compare the two, It's not hugely different. I wouldn't say it's an awful pattern. If you're bad at handling the pull to the right, then that may well be a good pattern for you. So what conclusions can we draw from these tests? There are 3 patterns that are markedly better than the rest, and surprisingly one of them is the bear gun. It's got a very consistent pattern. It gives the same basic pattern every time I do this test, and that is what you need from a gun. It doesn't really matter if the recoil on a gun is bad, as long as it's consistent. You can adapt to bad recoil, but you can't adapt to inconsistent recoil. So the accuracy penalty that the muzzle brake and compensator give without any adjustment is too bad to be useful, in my opinion. So the second pattern we have is the stubby and compensator. Now this is a slightly narrower pattern than the bear gun, because the compensator is adjusting for the pull to the right recoil, and the stubby grip is halving the accuracy penalty that the compensator gives. So this seems like a reasonable pattern if you're pretty intent on going full auto at medium and close ranges. You know, if you like to spray shots around, this seems to be a pretty good pattern. And the third pattern is the stubby and heavy barrel. This has more vertical recoil because of the heavy barrel, but it is very accurate. The heavy barrel is adding accuracy and the stubby is adding accuracy. So if you can handle the vertical recoil, which is pretty much just going to be a straight pull down on this, then this seems to be a really good combination. Now the interesting fact is that this came out as one of the best combinations for 3-shot burst fire as well. So for maps that have a lot of long range and mid range combat like Silk Road and Dragon Pass, then this seems to be a pretty ideal combination. You can 3-shot burst accurately and you can full auto accurately. So there are going to be 2 more videos in this series, one of which is going to be combined accessories for burst fire, and one of which is going to be combined accessories from the move. I think I've worked out a way of repeatedly doing the same move so that I can test and compare accessories against each other. It's been quite tricky to work out, but I think I can do it by binding keys rather than using the mouse. So those will hopefully come up in the new year. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.